What if I told you that some of Hollywood's toughest action stars, guys who looked invincible on screen, were secretly losing the biggest battle of their lives? Behind the explosions, fight scenes, and box office glory, these legends were hooked on drugs, spiraling into chaos while the studios scrambled to hide the truth. From overdoses to on-set meltdowns, their real lives were darker than anything they ever acted out. Here are 20 action icons whose addiction nearly destroyed everything. Number 20. Errol Flynn. The swashbuckling star of Robin Hood was tried for statutory rape and lived a life of excess fueled by alcohol and morphine addiction. Flynn started drinking heavily in his 20s as his fame increased. Studio executives often covered up his drunken incidents on set. His morphine addiction began after a bout with malaria when doctors prescribed it for pain relief. Friends noted he could consume a full bottle of vodka daily. Despite his addictions, he completed over 50 films. On many productions, shooting schedules were arranged around his sobriety. Flynn died at age 50, looking 20 years older, with an autopsy revealing multiple drug-related health issues. Number 19. Jean-Claude Van Damme. He was fast, flashy, and flawless in the ring. But behind all the flying kicks and slick moves, Jean-Claude Van Damme was spiraling. In the 90s, he was raking in millions and cranking out hit after hit. Bloodsport, kickboxer, time cop. But cocaine had a tighter grip on him than any opponent ever could. At the height of his fame, Van Damme admitted to spending $10,000 a week on cocaine. That's right, 10 grand every week. He was doing up to 10 grams a day, showing up to sets high, getting into fights, and burning bridges all across Hollywood. Directors struggled to keep him on track. Studios started pulling away. Eventually, it all came crashing down. His marriages fell apart. The roles dried up. He even turned down rehab at one point, saying he'd rather just quit cold turkey, a move that almost destroyed him. Number 18. Robert Downey Jr. Before Iron Man, before the billion-dollar franchise, Robert Downey Jr. was Hollywood's most unpredictable train wreck. Sure, today he's seen as the ultimate comeback king, but rewind to the late 90s and early 2000s, and things looked very different. Downey wasn't just dabbling, he was drowning. Heroin, cocaine, crack. He did it all, often showing up to film sets completely out of it. At one point, he was arrested driving around with heroin, crack, and a loaded gun while in his pajamas. Another time, he wandered into a stranger's home and passed out in their child's bed. Studios stopped calling. His insurance cost more than his paycheck. He spent time in rehab, got clean, relapsed, and ended up in and out of jail for years. His performances were brilliant when he was sober, but that wasn't often, and no one in Hollywood wanted to gamble on him anymore. Number 17. John Michael Vincent. In the 80s, John Michael Vincent was the face of Airwolf, cool, confident, and fearless. But while he was soaring on screen in a high-tech helicopter, his real life was nose-diving fast. Behind the scenes, John Michael was hooked on booze, cocaine, and pills, a toxic mix that sent his life into chaos. He wrecked cars, got into bar fights, and was arrested multiple times. Producers kept giving him chances, but he'd show up late, slur his lines, or sometimes not show up at all. His face, once a matinee idol's dream, became swollen and worn from years of hard living. But the real shock came later. His addiction led to a severe infection that forced doctors to amputate his right leg. He spent his final years in and out of hospitals, broke, forgotten, and barely recognizable. Number 16. Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal built his image on discipline, honor, and swift justice. But behind the steely gaze and Aikido moves was a man rumored to be battling more than just villains. Whispers of prescription pill abuse, egotistical meltdowns, and erratic behavior followed him like a shadow. Though never as publicly self-destructive as others on this list, insiders claim Seagal often leaned on painkillers and sedatives, especially as his body started breaking down. from years of on-screen action. Co-stars described him as moody and unpredictable. Some said he'd vanish from the set, while others claimed he used Eastern spirituality to mask serious dependency issues. But it wasn't just the substances. His need for control on set, in relationships, even in interviews, hinted at someone desperately trying to stay in charge while his world quietly unraveled. He denied the drug rumors, of course, but the stories never stopped circling. Number 15. Steven Tyler. Okay, we're stepping a bit outside the usual action hero category here, but don't write off Steven Tyler. The Aerosmith frontman was known for his larger-than-life persona, and off-stage, that persona was fueled by drugs. Tyler was open about his struggles with drugs and alcohol, famously battling heroin and cocaine. His wild behavior nearly cost him his career and his life. By the 80s, his addiction had escalated to the point where Aerosmith was on the verge of breaking up. He had to check himself into rehab multiple times, eventually kicking his heroin habit and continuing his career as a rock icon. Though his fame was built on music, his intense lifestyle mirrored many of Hollywood's hardest action stars, and his addiction nearly took him down just like it did others. Number 14. Tom Sizemore. Tom Sizemore is one of the most infamous examples of Hollywood self-destruction. Best known for roles in Saving Private Ryan and Heat, Sizemore's career seemed poised for greatness, but his addictions to meth, cocaine, and heroin were his undoing. His struggles were public, from fights with co-stars to arrests for domestic violence and substance abuse. Sizemore's erratic behavior was a constant problem on sets, and he was booted from several films due to his unreliability. Despite his immense talent, he became synonymous with chaos, and soon his roles dried up. Eventually, Sizemore's addiction problems led to a serious downfall, including time spent in prison and countless stints in rehab. His career, once so promising, was all but destroyed by his battle with drugs. Number 13. Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes, a brilliant filmmaker and aviator, became addicted to codeine after a plane crash left him with severe injuries. Initially prescribed to manage pain, Hughes found the drug also eased his anxiety, leading him to hoard pills. His reclusiveness allowed the addiction to spiral unchecked, affecting his decision-making and business dealings. His paranoia grew, and he became increasingly erratic, writing incoherent notes to staff. Hughes often stayed awake for days on stimulants, only to crash later. In his final years, his once sharp mind was consumed by confusion, and he died emaciated and unrecognizable, with long, grotesque fingernails and rampant dental infections. Number 12. Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi, famous for playing Dracula, became addicted to morphine in the 1930s due to sciatic pain. As his career declined, so did his addiction. He even took morphine injections between scenes, which made him difficult to insure for films. Turning to illegal sources after his prescriptions ran out, his addiction worsened. Though he publicly sought treatment in the 1950s, his recovery was only partial, and he remained dependent until his death. Fans were shocked by his gaunt look in his final film, and he was buried in his Dracula cape at his request. Number 11. John Barrymore. John Barrymore's legendary career was destroyed by alcoholism. Coming from a family with a history of addiction, his drinking began in theater to cope with nerves. By his 40s, he struggled to remember lines, and his shaking hands became obvious. Directors had to schedule shoots early before he could drink. His appearance became bloated, and his performances suffered. His alcoholism led to seizures and, eventually, cirrhosis and kidney failure. Barrymore died at 60, a shadow of the star he once was. Number 10. Alan Ladd. Alan Ladd, known for Shane, battled alcohol and barbiturate addiction throughout his career. He began using barbiturates for insomnia and relied on substances to cope with insecurities about his small stature. His addiction worsened, affecting his liver and leading to depression. His performances became wooden, and he was cast in lower-quality films. His death at 50 was ruled accidental, caused by a lethal mix of alcohol and pills. His addiction had been enabled by doctors who freely prescribed medication, and he was increasingly lost in his final years. Number 9. Francis Farmer. Farmer's promising career was derailed by addiction and mental health struggles, leading to institutionalization. Her troubles began with alcohol dependency in her 20s. She used alcohol to manage her anxiety about performing. Police arrested her multiple times for drunken incidents. Her behavior on set became increasingly unpredictable. Mental health issues complicated her addiction problems. She refused treatment until forced by court orders. Her institutionalization involved controversial treatments, including painful electroshock therapy. Doctors administered tranquilizers without addressing her alcoholism. She lost the prime years of her career in institutions. Upon release, she found Hollywood had abandoned her. Her addiction was treated as a moral failing rather than an illness. Few friends stood by her during her darkest times. Modern experts believe proper dual diagnosis treatment might have saved her career. Number 8. Diana Barrymore. Following in her father John Barrymore's footsteps, Diana battled alcoholism and drug dependency, which led to her downfall. She inherited both talent and addiction tendencies. She began drinking heavily as a teenager. Her famous father died of alcoholism when she was young. She married multiple times, each relationship failing partly due to her addiction. She missed rehearsals and filming dates regularly. Studios became reluctant to cast her despite her famous name. She added prescription medications to her alcohol abuse. She wrote a memoir titled Too Much Too Soon, detailing her struggles with remarkable honesty for the era. Unfortunately, the publication didn't lead to recovery. She continued struggling with substances. She died at 38 from an overdose. Her short life mirrored her father's tragic trajectory. The Barrymore family continued to battle similar issues for generations. Number 7. Chico Marx. The comedic genius from the Marx Brothers struggled with alcoholism throughout his life, tarnishing his legacy. His drinking began during vaudeville tours. His brothers often covered for his drunken mistakes on stage. Gambling addiction compounded his alcohol problems. He frequently lost his film earnings at card tables and racetracks. Film producers found him increasingly difficult to insure. His brothers sometimes refused to work with him. His comic timing deteriorated as his addiction progressed. His hands trembled when playing piano in later films. Family interventions proved unsuccessful. His brothers eventually distanced themselves personally while maintaining professional ties. His health declined significantly in his 50s. Liver damage became apparent to even casual observers. Medical complications from alcoholism ultimately caused his death. Number 6. Montgomery Clift. After a devastating car accident, Clift turned to painkillers and alcohol to cope with chronic pain, leading to his tragic decline. The accident severely damaged his classically handsome face. Each reconstructive surgery recovery required increasing amounts of painkillers. Alcohol helped mask his physical and emotional pain. The combination of substances affected his memory, and he struggled to learn lines for new roles. Directors noted his previously photographic memory had disappeared. His once perfect diction became slurred. Some days he appeared completely present and brilliant. Other days he seemed lost in a pharmaceutical fog. Studio executives became reluctant to cast him despite his immense talents. His final films show a man aged far beyond his years. He died at 45 from heart failure related to his substance abuse. Number 5. Tyrone Power. A leading man of the golden age, Power's heavy drinking became a well-known issue behind the scenes. His matinee idol image hid serious alcohol problems. He began each day with alcohol-laced coffee. By afternoon, he consumed straight vodka from water bottles. Directors scheduled crucial scenes early in the day. His handsomeness began fading prematurely due to alcohol. Studio publicists suppressed stories about drunken incidents. His drinking accelerated after World War II service. Combat experiences added psychological reasons for self-medication. Fellow actors attempted interventions without success. His work ethic remained strong despite his addiction. He never missed call times despite severe hangovers. Heart problems developed related to alcohol consumption. He died relatively young from a heart attack. Doctors noted his heart showed damage typical of long-term alcoholics. Number 4. Robert Walker. The Strangers on a Train star battled alcohol and prescription drug abuse until his untimely death at 32. Walker's problems began after his wife Jennifer Jones left him for studio boss David O. Selznick. He turned to alcohol to numb his emotional pain, and barbiturates soon accompanied the drinking. This dangerous combination affected his professional reliability. Mood swings became unpredictable and sometimes violent. He was arrested multiple times for drunken behavior. His portrayal of a psychopath in Strangers on a Train was disturbingly authentic. Treatment attempts proved unsuccessful. He died from an adverse reaction to medication prescribed by his psychiatrist, who had been unaware of other substances in his system. His death shocked Hollywood despite his known problems. Number 3. Mickey Rooney. Despite his cheerful on-screen persona, Rooney fought addiction to prescription drugs and alcohol for years. His drug use began during his childhood years when studio doctors gave him medications to maintain energy. His small stature created insecurity. He medicated chemically. Multiple marriages failed partly due to his substance issues. Gambling addiction complicated his financial and emotional stability. He lost millions of dollars at racetracks and casinos. His energetic performances relied increasingly on stimulants. The depression between projects worsened his dependencies. He received few consequences due to his status as a Hollywood legend. Later in life, he achieved periods of sobriety, though these successes were unfortunately temporary. His longevity in Hollywood seemed miraculous considering his habits. He became more open about his struggles in his senior years. Unlike many on this list, he died at age 93, having overcome his worst addictions. Number 2. W.C. Fields. Fields' love for alcohol was no secret. It ultimately overshadowed his comedic brilliance. He incorporated drinking into his public persona. His red nose and raspy voice resulted from alcoholism. He reportedly kept flasks hidden around film sets. This openness about alcohol created an impression his drinking was exaggerated for comedy. The reality was far more serious than his public image suggested. He consumed nearly a quart of whiskey daily for decades. Morning shakes prevented him from working until he had several drinks. Directors scheduled filming around his drinking patterns. His health deteriorated visibly in his later films. Stomach ulcers plagued him due to alcohol irritation. His comedy sometimes came from genuine intoxication rather than acting. Medical complications from alcoholism eventually caused his death. His liver was severely damaged by decades of abuse. The coroner reported unprecedented cirrhosis levels. His comedy legacy remains significant despite his problems. Number 1. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton, once a promising star in the 1950s, saw her career collapse due to alcoholism and drug abuse. Initially predicted for major stardom, her rapid descent into addiction began with heavy drinking at industry parties, soon followed by drugs. As her beauty faded, scandals involving men damaged her reputation, leading to the termination of her studio contract. With her behavior spiraling, B-movies became her only option. Financial struggles drove her to desperate measures, including prostitution to fund her habits. She was arrested multiple times for public intoxication and died young from heart and liver failure. Payton's story is a tragic example of Hollywood's darkest falls from grace. These action stars may have conquered on-screen battles, but their real-life struggles with addiction were far more dangerous. It's a reminder that even the toughest heroes have their breaking points. If you want to hear more shocking truths about Hollywood's hidden stories, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. Don't miss the next jaw-dropping reveal, because you'll be shocked at what we uncover next.